everyone, to the Indy Reds Podcast. This is Bryan Smith filling in as host for tonight for the usual Joe Dilling. Don't worry, Joe hasn't picked up a red card at home or been suspended in any way. In fact, he's joining us tonight as a co-host. Joe, thanks for letting me host tonight. And hello, anything special going on at home tonight? What's the beverage? Talk to me, Joe.
So we're going on vacation. Actually, we'll be on a ship, I guess, 2 weeks from tonight. So I'm trying to drop a quick 10-15 if I can. My fat ass really needs to fit in a bathing suit. I know that sounds weird, but anyway, so I am just doing the water tonight, trying to be a little healthier recently.
All right, 15 pounds in 2 weeks. That's bold. If it works, let me know what you did because I need to do the same damn thing. So
I think it's just
good luck with you there.
Some water weight, maybe some bloat.
There you go. We have a lot to talk about tonight, of course. So we're going big this evening. We're going to have more people on the podcast tonight than Liverpool have in their midfield. So that means we need at least 4. And joining us tonight are Michael Nead and Gabe Smith. Welcome to the podcast, gentlemen.
How are you, good sir?
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, we do that. We just both talk at the same time.
I think we both delayed. Yeah, I think we both delayed, so it left for the other person to speak first, and of course we both delayed each other to exhaustion. So
that's okay. So, Michael, you got an Saturday working tonight?
That's because we're courteous. And, no.
Courteous like the average Chelsea supporter. Absolutely, I love it. Yeah. Michael, what kind of beverage you got in front of you tonight? Is it a Joe water?
No. Actually, it's a Cerveza Modelo. And I would like to say, Joe, if you are trying to fit into a Speedo, I fully support your decision to not drink a beer this evening. But if it's just normal swim trunks, I don't know what the hell you're on about.
Thanks.
Yeah, Cerveza Modelo, that's good. My daughter in college loves those. Gabe, what are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking a Magic Hat tonight. It's been a long time since I've had one, and that was one of the only other beers that I found at the local liquor store. So,
did you go to the crappy one on 49th?
Of course I did, because it's the closest. Yep.
Hey,
plug the 49th Street liquor bin right there. Go there now. All right.
I like it. Well, I'm debuting a new drink tonight. Is the first time I'm ever hosting the wonderful Indy Reds pod. So. It's an absurdly large glass, as usual. It's got gin and tonic in it, as often I do. However, there's a beer that Ryan Geis out of Cincinnati makes called Wowie, W-O-W-I-E. And it is a fruited ale, has passion fruit and pineapple in it. And you put that in some gin and tonic, and you can create one hell of a podcast. So that's what I'm going for tonight. Gin and tonic with some Ryan Geis Wowie in it.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah, it's terrific. Yeah, I'm going to be making them for all my friends at the next Indy 11 tailgate. So maybe more about that later. So what are we exactly going to talk about tonight? A lot to talk about. We're going to start with the return to the Champions League as the Reds, head to Napoli, and we'll talk about that match a little bit. We're going to quick update on what happened in Liverpool's group, but then really the meat and bones of the podcast tonight is the return to Premier League action. Liverpool at Stamford Bridge taking on Chelsea and some guy named Frank. We'll get into that as well. And some updates at the very end, some fixture changes you may not have heard about, and the next league match for Liverpool Cup match against MK Dons, and more. So that's what the rundown looks like tonight. So let's start with the away match in Napoli. The Reds travel to Italy. They play in a stadium where apparently no one's sitting in the lower bowl at all, nothing but empty seats, which still just blows me away. I don't know if you guys know anything about that or figured what the hell happened there.
I think they had gotten a fan ban. I think they were serving some sort of ban for fan behavior.
I had not heard that. Is that true? Did you guys hear that?
I thought so.
I had not, but I also wasn't looking too hard into it, to be honest.
Let's call it a ban. It was a massive ban that Napoli had to suffer just for being Napoli and not cooking their pizza to completion and leaving it wet and stupid in the middle like they do. But so nobody sitting in the lower bowl. We get the back four that we all expect with Trent and Joel and Virgil and Robbo and the regular front three. Firmino makes his 200th appearance for the Reds in this match. Milner gets to start in front of Gini and starts in the midfield alongside with Hendo and Fabinho. So a scoreless first half, not a whole lot happened. We played pretty well. Really, we had a really strong first hour, maybe 75, 80 minutes. Unfortunately, Napoli scores 2 late goals and beat us 2-0. Up to that point, in those first 80 minutes or so, we had more possession. We had outshot Napoli at that point, but we ended up losing 2-0 anyway, unfortunately. So, gentlemen, any performances of note, anything good, anything disappointing, anything otherwise? We'll talk about the goals later, but just your overall game impressions. Anyone, stand out to you, or anyone you want to call out? Maybe they didn't have such a great game. I'm going to throw it to the podcast master, Joe. What do you got, Joe?
I didn't get to watch a ton of the match, so because that was my flight day out to the east of town, Pennsylvania, and so I couldn't log in. I was trying to catch the first half, but the TNT app was just acting the fool and wouldn't let me in. So I resolved for the audio as I was finishing up packing and everything, and it seemed like we were really the dominant team. It really felt though that we could have used some more in midfield. Stuff just wasn't coming off for us. You listen, and we were, like I said, we were the dominant team, and it just wasn't there. We have those sometimes. Like, I think it was partially their keeper had some good saves in there. Koulibaly was having a worldie. I remember mentioning last week that he was going to have to, or that he was just one player, but holy cow, he played like 3 back there. He was putting on a masterclass, at least in the first half, and just shutting down our front 3 almost single-handedly, which was bizarre. So I don't think it was really well, obviously we lost, but I don't think it was a great game from our side. I don't know, maybe the half empty stadium, they thought they were in Manchester, or something like that. So I don't know, maybe it threw them off, but wasn't the finishing wasn't there. I really probably would have liked to have seen Jenny, I think, in the midfield instead of Milner, but Klopp has his reasons, and that's fine, and I completely trust Klopp. So that's just kind of my take on the whole thing. Saw a few highlights. Milner scuffed a couple that were pretty nice, and that maybe led to my whole, maybe we should look at Genie a little bit harder. But you know what? It is what it is.
Yeah, that's a good shout. You're right about Koulibaly. He was excellent, and before we got Virgil, his name popped up a lot, and he's obviously an excellent player. But Gabe, I'm coming to you next. Back in the States after. Those of you that listen to us for a long, long time know that Gabe was here and he was in Australia for about a decade or whatever it was. He's back now, so he got to watch this match not at 2 a.m. So, yes. Gabe, what were your impressions of the Reds' trip to Napoli?
Yeah, I mean, much of what Joe said there. To start off with the Koulibaly performance, I saw something on Twitter, and I unfortunately I can't really attribute it to who it was because it was whatever, almost a week ago at this point. But someone had said, well, this must be what other teams feel like now when they play Van Dijk, from Liverpool's defensive perspective. So, that's what I kind of felt like. I mean, it was just I thought Koulibaly was quite dominant in the first half, really broke up a couple plays that looked like it was promising. It's just one of those days to where the front 3, it was just missing that final pass or that shot, which just wasn't exactly probably how the player wanted to hit it. And you're gonna have those evenings. They're certainly made worse when you have a world class center back like Koulibaly. But beyond that, the first half it was pretty cagey. It was back and forth. It was pretty open. There were moments to where I thought Napoli might score. There were moments to where I thought Liverpool could. It was I sure from the neutral, it was a fun game to watch. And both keepers had to come up with huge saves to kind of protect their team. Certainly, I think Adrian's was by far the greater highlight. But Merritt had that one when Salah had essentially Manolis had that poor back pass. That had that error, and Salah was able to get the ball, and Merritt was able to block it out wide. So, it's just one of those things to where once we had the second half, I thought we were playing really, really well, and we were really starting to click. And I think even Ancelotti, Napoli's manager, was kind of saying that, look, I thought Liverpool was really in control of the match at a certain point, and everything looked kind of dismal until we had a couple fortunate situations. Obviously, we'll get into that those items, but I think that's how you define it. So you have to take stock that it counts as a loss for sure, and you like as Champions League champions in that case, to come out in the first game and get a better performance or a better result, I should say. Probably, I think it was a decent performance by Liverpool, but a better result in the rerun there. But that's just sometimes how it breaks out. So
yeah, but you're right. Sometimes it does. I mean, the first match, it's great to have the Champions League, going again. You mentioned Adrian save that ridiculous dive to his left with his right hand up high. I mean, just unbelievable. I mean, if Alisson does that save, the whole world is going berserk, and every red on the planet and his favorite girl is having a kid 9 months from now. I mean, that was just absurd. Unbelievable save. So, before we move on to the goals,
there's kids born from his save last year against Napoli in the Champions League. So you're right. You're right on that. They've just come full cycle.
You're right.
They're probably enjoying their second to third month birthday at that point. So I think you're right on that account.
Yeah, and there are no children named Karius that are Liverpool fans. You're right. So.
He had a bad weekend too.
He did.
I feel bad. As a keeper, I feel very bad. That sucks in terms of that situation.
Yeah.
He's certainly in his own head right now at this point.
Absolutely. So. Now, Michael, before we get to talking about the goals, because we have to talk about these goals. Anything else you'd like to just talk about the match overall, Michael? What's up?
I don't have too much to add. Beyond the fact, from my understanding, it was very, very hot and humid during the match. And I was not able to watch the full match live. My work schedule has been obscene lately. But I've seen enough of the match it looks like we really began to wear out fairly early into the second half. And for a team that just runs everybody to death, that just seems very unusual to me. So, beyond that, before the game, I asserted that I thought this was the least important game that we were going to play in the group stage, simply because it was the one that was most up in the air, and if we're going to lose one game, this was going to be it. So I still stand by that, and, it's not the result I wanted, but it's not going to kill me.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I don't think it's certainly hard to argue with any of that. So well done. Let's move on to these Napoli goals, because they came bunched together in the last 10 minutes of the game, and even though we want to move on, since this game was about a week ago, and maybe 6-7 days ago, by the time you listen to this, we should talk about them. So the first Napoli goal is a penalty called on Robbo. So first thing I noticed, he reacts and disagrees immediately, as does Virgil and Fabinho, and those were the three Liverpool players closest to the play. Linesman does nothing. No flag going up, no indicating a penalty. They raise the flag up and they race around the corner flag to go near the goal like they sometimes do to kind of get in position for the penalty. The referee is in a good position, but he calls us a pen immediately. So I have a question for each of you. And Joe, I'm coming to you first. At full speed watching this back, did you think this was a penalty?
It was close, man. Because I can't. Again, I had to watch the highlights of it, so they immediately went to the slow mo VAR of it. But watching it live, it looked close. I mean, you can tell that Andy doesn't make contact. But it almost looked like a 50-50 where, he was already committed and the other player came in and just had a little touch and then looked live. Maybe it might have been a touch divey. But I know, when you start watching on VAR, I mean, Andy just wasn't expecting the other player's speed. He even has a little flick of his foot where he's looking to touch it, completely whiffs, and there's contact there. So I think that if it would have been reviewed, even if it hadn't been called on the field, and they were looking for a penalty somewhere online, or the booth said, "Hey, let's look at that," I think it would have gotten overturned if it would have been a no call. That's just my take on the whole thing.
Interesting.
It's just the way that it is. I mean, we would have expected that to be called a foul if Mo Salah comes in and just flicks the ball past, for lack of better name, Koulibaly is in that position, okay? And he does that same thing. We would have expected a penalty. So, you get some, you win some, you lose some.
Interesting. I know what it's like to watch an important match on an airplane. I was in the air years ago during the ridiculous comeback against Dortmund, where we had Lovren scored the match winner, and
Country of Liverpool match.
Sacco scored the equalizer. I'm flying back from L.A. I'm watching the game. I completely freaked out. The poor lady sitting beside me, and probably everyone sitting behind me, and anywhere near me. But Joe, I can see you standing up and screaming in the aisle of your flight on your plane there, causing all kinds of problems. So at full speed, I'll admit at full speed, I thought it was a penalty when I saw it at full speed, but it goes to VAR, and the VAR does its thing. And Michael, what did you think about this penalty and VAR? Did you expect it to remain a penalty, or what are your thoughts?
I don't know. To Joe's point, if something similar happened to that to Mo Salah, of course I'd be screaming out for a penalty, but that's because I want Liverpool to win. But I think these are the kind of goals that VAR was really introduced to have an influence on the accuracy of the calls on the pitch, and I think in this situation it might have gotten it wrong.
Yeah. All right. So, Gabe, you're a keeper, as you stated, the starting goalkeeper for the official Liverpool Supporters Club of Indianapolis futsal team.
Yes.
Yes. So, as a keeper, what do you think about this call and this penalty?
Well, I mean, the keeper thing aside, because I definitely, obviously, I can't shed my LLC bias here in this aspect. So certainly, I'm going to always have those tinted glasses on. But I mean, to me, the situation looked like he was clearly looking for contact and was already proceeding to make his motion before you essentially have Robertson whiff. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is I've seen no video to where he actually makes contact, where Robertson makes contact in there. And so, I fully agree that in full speed, it looked like it was a penalty. And I think it's one of those situations to where we're gonna come up as a theme again tonight. Obviously, with what we saw on the other side with the Chelsea match is that VAR I think is still something to where not everyone can predict the results, and sometimes I think it even goes beyond full on what the video camera actually sees. I think maybe soft offsides, is going to maybe a bit more black and white. So it's a little bit easier to just say, well, this person was offsides or they weren't. But these kind of situations to where I think by the letter of the law, you don't necessarily have to make contact, because if a player is almost avoiding that contact, just not to get injured in that respect, you can still call that a foul. So I understand that premise, but again, from looking at the replay, it just doesn't even look like the player is even doing that to avoid contact. Now, of course, you're getting into person's intent and in someone's head, and so I think that's kind of where you're always going to see VAR potentially fail, because there's always going to be these multiple factors that they must be considering when doing that. But it looked like the player made a meal of it. I thought that would be a situation to where VAR would kind of catch that. Or side within that situation of obviously at a 0-0 match. Again, of course, they can't factor in these scenarios, but won't let a game turn because of a potentially bad call, and that's how I see it, because you have that situation. Obviously, Liverpool's now 1-0 down when they were definitely having momentum and getting some threats then on Napoli's defense. You go from that, and then the second goal is fully up to that penalty. I think you have Van Dijk, who in any situation would clear that ball if it's still 0-0. At that point, they're not dilly-dallying in the defense; they're just going to clear it. But the fact that they're 1-0 down, and at that point, I think it was whatever the 89th minute or 90th minute there, they're just trying to get the ball up to the attack as quickly as possible. So he's going to try a pass that in any other game situation you wouldn't try. So it then becomes 2-0. So it's a very deceiving scoreline from I thought what the Liverpool performance was. But back to the PK, I just don't in my now obviously after several reviews, I just don't see it. I think it's a bad call.
That's well done, Gabe. That's why we have you on here every couple of years when you're on this continent.
Break off cobwebs, just get a couple of shots in of whiskey and roll it up there. So
I think you're exactly right. I mean, the second goal, you summed it up. I don't think we even really need to go deep into it. Virgil's trying something a little bit extra because we're down one. He knows Robbo's. Virgil has to go out wide to kind of cover a loose ball out there. Robbo's a little bit central at the start of that play, and Virgil does what he does. He covers for Robbo all the time when Robbo's bombing up, towards the corner flag at the opposite end, and there's a loose ball there, and Virgil puts his foot on it, trying to get it back to Robbo, so Robbo can find somebody. And if it's 0-0, Virgil just puts that up the line and out of bounds and gives him a throw in.
And I think that's probably what Robbo was thinking.
I hadn't really thought about it that way. But you're right. You're absolutely right. We would have handled that if it was still 0-0, and we didn't, unfortunately. But so we end up 2-0. Joe, you had something. Go ahead.
I mean, Robert looked surprised that the ball was coming to him. So maybe that's exactly what he was thinking too. Is that Virgil plays that ball either into touch or down the line 99.9% of the time. And it surprised Robbo. I don't think Virgil got a good connection on it either because it looked a bit soft back and not as crisp of a pass as it usually would be coming from him to make sure it gets back to Robbo. So I think let's just face it, Andy Robertson dropped off of Twitter for at least a day because of the reaction of the fans coming at him, which was completely ridiculous. Because like you guys have said, is that a pen? That's it's splitting hairs at this point in time. And then you also a pass that he's surprised by that Virgil, I mean, best defender in the world, and everybody's bound to make a mistake at some point in time. Just doesn't make a good connection on it. I mean, gosh, if it was an attacker and they didn't make good connections, then we'd call him a Chelsea player. But it's just, I mean, it is what it is. Mistakes are going to happen in a match, and I think that's what happened in this one.
Good call. So, there's no reason to go any deeper than that. I think you guys both nailed it. So well done. Let's talk about the other result in our group, which was Salzburg and playing, the majestic Genk. And they played them at Salzburg. They hammered them 6-2 at Red Bull Salzburg, which is kind of surprised me. You don't see 6-2 very much in the Champions League. Maybe a pot 1 team against a pot 4 team at home. But this is a pot 3 against a pot 4 team, which was 6-2. That surprises me. And then I read that Genk actually had more possession than Salzburg did, but lost 6-2. So I don't know what to think about that. I saw some highlights. Salzburg had a dude that had a hat trick, which his name escapes me right now. Let's just call him Von
Very
Trapp.
blonde.
Von Trapp.
I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation because I'm always known for that. But
yes, you are.
Yeah, his dad.
Hey,
dad
you know
played,
what? I'm going to stand up for my fellow Smith here. Guys named Smith are allowed to butcher pronunciation, so I don't want to hear about it.
All right,
but
either.
He's got Premier League history. His dad played for Leeds, so there's some talent in the family. Yep.
Nice.
So
give a shout out to Jesse.
So
March.
the
First American,
Marsh.
Coach to ever coach a Champions League match, UEFA Champions League match.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Don't sleep on Salzburg. I mean, just in terms of, I think we remember last year with obviously the Red Star game away, and what seemed like going into it was going to be an inconsequential match. You could feel the nerves after that result, and certainly it seems like it was kind of a turning point moment for the season, based on what some of the players have said in interviews, kind of following the result of that. So I think Salzburg has that kind of potential, throw a kink into the works kind of team. It's a very young team, so we just need to make sure and just keep the foot on the gas pedal with it, and not take anything for granted. And I don't think the players will. I don't think Klopp would let them. But certainly our group, not as tough as some, but also not as easy as others. So Man City certainly has one of the cake groups. I think Salzburg is actually a little bit better than people will think just from an Austrian team. So.
Yeah, I just think that the down part for City is the number of miles they have to travel midweek away games. I'm going to stick by that. I know not everybody agrees with me on that, but I'm just going to put that out there.
Factor, but it's a cake. It's a cake. It's a cake.
It is.
Though.
It is.
Very good. So I think we're going to be okay in the Champions League, as you said, Gabe. There's just first match, a lot of games to go. I hope Salzburg do what you're suggesting there. Maybe they can get a draw against Napoli, maybe a third place, or maybe another draw in Italy. Who knows? So, Michael, what are your thoughts on the group and this particular first round of games and what we need to do going forward?
Well, I will readily admit that Salzburg played well. I mean, I think it was 4-1 by halftime, and Genk just didn't even, I mean, quite frankly, they aren't in the same league as Salzburg, but they didn't even look in the same planet as Salzburg for the first half. I think that possession statistic probably did get pumped up quite a bit by the second half, but, Salzburg was up 4-1 at the start of the half, so how much possession are they particularly worried about? Beyond that, I still think that we're going to get through. I'm not particularly worried if we're, seat 1 or seat 2 going into this next round. We tend to show up much more in the games against bigger teams later in the tournament than we do against Napoli away in the first round.
Yeah, I'm with you. Here's to just us playing well in the future matches. Salzburg pulling an upset or two, and maybe we can rest a player or two with a match or two to go in the Champions League group stages. So we'll get out. I think we all agree we're going to get out of this group, whether we win the group and with maybe a match to go, or that's yet to be seen. So that wraps up the Champions League and plenty of games to come. But let's move on to the Premier League, because damn, it was good to be back playing Premier League football again. A big match. The Reds travel to Stamford Bridge to take on Chelsea and whatever that Frank dude's name is. And, Chelsea, they're young and they're off to a kind of an interesting start. I still think they're better than most people expected, and I stand by my prediction at the beginning of the podcast, really because I don't want to hide from it after 5 or 6 games. But I predicted they would finish 4th, and I'm going to stick with that for now. So feel free to embarrass me later or dump an Saturday on my head at Union Jack or whatever you need to do in the spring if I'm completely wrong here. But no Pulisic starting for Chelsea, but an informed Abraham's up front for them. Conte was injured, and I dropped him from my fantasy team. He's a terrific player, and Mason Mount was injured as well. And both of those guys were questionable as of Friday, and or perhaps even the Saturday morning. They both start, which surprised me. I'd walk into UJ's up to the upper deck, and I hadn't looked at their starting lineup. I just looked at ours and then hit the road and drove over there. But Conte and Mason Mount start for the Blues, and unfortunately no Pulisic. So a few thousand American plastic Chelsea supporters cried and immediately switched clubs is what I'm guessing happened there. So,
turned off the TV.
A moment of silence for them. Those folks that turned off the TV because Pulisic didn't play against Liverpool. But anyway, fuck them. So pretty standard. There you go. Pretty standard starting 11 for us. Milner back to the bench after his performance in Napoli. Gini back into the midfield alongside Hendo and Fabinho. And interestingly, Fabinho makes his 50th appearance for the Reds in this match, which was kind of great to see. And that happened fast. He's only been here, a year, a little bit more than a year. So 50 appearances in all comps for Liverpool, for Fabinho. So well done. I hope you and your wife celebrated that.
We always have to bring up his wife, don't we?
Yeah, Miss Linares.
I think I brought her up twice on this podcast, Joe. So I'm trailing you like 35-2. But
hey, I'm sorry. Right. I'm sorry, she's smoke. She's
She's
great. And on social media, she's hilarious, and she's recording stuff and putting out on Twitter from the stands. And I didn't know that Joe informed me at Union Jack during this game. Sorry, I'm getting sideways here, but she was a professional player in France, and that's how they met each other, right, Joe?
Yeah, that's what I recall reading. I think
did
at
not
Monaco.
know that, so I hope that's
true.
true. Yeah, played at Monaco, so good for them. So, Fabinho starts, and a pretty standard starting 11 for us. Very intense match, one of the toughest away matches in the league for sure. One of the 3 or 4 or 5 toughest away matches in this league. This match had everything. It had goals, had VAR, it had a tense finish, had subs because of injury, 6 yellow cards, and tons of loud support at Union Jack Pub and beautiful Broad Ripple. Liverpool take a 2-goal lead in the first half. One from Trent, we'll get to that in a second, which was ridiculous. A second one from Bobby, which he absolutely buried. Both of them from set pieces. So the first one, Trent's goal comes from a foul, called on Mane, which initially looked a little bit soft to me. We'll get into that a little bit later. I got an Owen angle on that if we get time for it. But Salah drags it back for Trent.
We're all shocked.
Salah drags the free kick back for Trent with a little kind of bottom of the boot kind of cleat kind of drag back, and Trent just lets it rip with the wall completely no longer a factor due to the way they set this up, this little touch from Salah. And what a ridiculous strike. Let's talk about this goal because it was a magnificent. Joe, what do you got? I mean, this goal from Trent early in the first half on the road to Stamford Bridge, unbelievable.
I mean, what else can you say? I mean, you pretty much said it there. I mean, Mo drags it back. He called it, though. That was the thing that we learned from Henderson post-match. Henderson comes out and is doing his post-game conference, or press or whatever, maybe in the mix zone. But he and Trent are actually pretty close from their time on the national team when they spent at the World Cup. But he said they've been kind of working about it in practice. They lined it up, and he saw that look, it was probably too close to get any kind of bend or get over the wall or get under the wall. And so he called it and said, hey, look, I think Mo will be a great decoy on this, and he'll just roll it back, and then Trent will just find it and shoot a rocket. Trent wanted it. He called it. Henderson was like, yeah, go for it. And I mean, varied a little bend on it, hits side netting. You can hear it from the guys that are recording it from the stands. Just beautiful. Gosh. I hate making these comparisons, but it was almost Steven Gerrard-esque. It was beautiful. But sadly, I don't even know if it was the best free kick of the weekend. I don't know if you saw Chilwell's winner. Well, his set piece goal against Manchester United, but that one was beautiful as well. So those two probably top goals of the weekend, my opinion.
Talk about a free kick. Sidebar here. I'm walking into Union Jack as United supporters are walking out, and I won't say which particular United supporter is walking out at that point, but we all know who he is. He's really the only one that goes there anymore. And I knew they were losing 1-0 as I'm driving over.
Slightly lovable.
Yeah, slightly. It's fun to laugh at him, but no, he's a good guy. So I walk in and said, "Hey, how'd it end up?" And he starts talking about this free kick and how great it was, and I'm thinking, okay. I just kind of walked into Union Jack and said, was polite, said, have a good day, and that was that. But I have not even watched the free kick. I think I'm going to purposely not look it up, just so I can say maybe 3 months from now when I see him again, I never did look up that free kick. Tell me about it again, and see what happens. So, I have not looked it up, and I think I won't just for that reason. But, Gabe, is Trent our best right-footed free kick taker that we have, or what are your thoughts here? I mean, what a great goal!
Oh, easily. I don't think he has a lot of competition around him. Even Salah, the left foot. I would say that, and I certainly encourage listeners to point out any set piece that Salah's taken to where you kind of go, or a moment to where Salah's about to take a set piece and you go, I think he's going to get this one. I think he doesn't take a bad set piece, but I'm never too excited to where I think he might score Trent, though, on the other hand, anytime he steps up, I think there's that feeling. It started with Champions League last year. It was really kind of the opener to seeing Trent more in that kind of attacking mindset rather than just all right, this is a young kid from the academy. He probably has some midfielder potential in him, but we're going to play him a right back. And when we saw that set piece last year, that was clearly okay. This is something that he's certainly good at. I think in terms of the squad, and I know I'm just gonna go off on a brief little tangent, but that's kind of what I was hoping from the summer, that we might bring someone else in that might also be kind of an attacking threat with set pieces, so that kind of burden didn't fall solely on Trent. Because again, if it's not Trent, I don't really think that there's anybody else. And I'm not talking about corners, but just in the field of play, set pieces. I don't really think that there's anybody else that could even touch Trent right now. Now Gomez, Joe may have an issue with that after that. Can't remember if it was like a FIFA,
FIFA
EA
promo
Sports
video
where he smashed them on. I don't think there was much pace on those balls, if I recall from that replay of it. It was perfect placement, but I'm not sure if there's much pace on there to really beat a goalkeeper. But Joe definitely did a good job in that little day event. But when the pressure's on, by far and away, Trent is certainly our most capable player right now at taking set pieces, and no one should even come up and try to take that duty away from him for a long time, as this current squad right now shows.
I do have
I
do have one more thing to add about Trent and his play in the whole game. But you know what? I decided I'm going to save it for later. Sorry, go ahead, Bryan.
All right. Well,
that's what they call in the business a tease.
Yep.
That's what they call in the business a tease.
Well, thanks for listening. Signing off for the podcast. Gabe brought up a
30-minute, drop off. That one person that's listened for 35 minutes so far, and just going, you know what? I was thinking about leaving, but now that Joe's got that little teaser there,
this is what we're gonna say, Joe. No,
that's all we're gonna say about waiting for
Oh, fuck you, Joe Boo. I do it myself.
Gabe, that video you mentioned, it was terrific. Those of you that play FIFA out there, which is an awful lot of our listeners, I'm sure, those little skill games you can do and practice free kicks and try to hit the target in the corner and all that kind of stuff. It's a good video out there of, gosh, help me, guys.
Virgil,
Gomez
Shaq,
is taking
Gomez and Trent.
Yeah, Virgil comes up and takes one.
Trent.
Shaq and Trent. And was it Bob? Was Bobby out there?
Yeah, Bobby was out there.
No,
that's right. Yeah, Virgil was. It was after practice, and Virgil was walking up.
Was Bobby this year or last
walked
year?
off like a freaking badass.
Yeah.
He's got a free kick.
Joe won this competition easily.
Yep.
So my question for you, Michael, is this first of all, this kick is definitely on the goalkeeper's right. Kind of down the left hand side of the penalty spot from an attacking perspective. If this free kick's on the other side and it's more suited to a left-footed shooter, is Andy Robertson pissed that Salah gets to take all of these? Because Robertson can put in a damn good ball, but Salah seems to take all the left-footed free kicks, as Gabe mentioned. What should we be doing from the other side of the pitch is on free kicks? Is Robbo ever going to get a chance, or is Salah going to take them all?
I think until Robbo somehow proves in practice that he is significantly better than Salah at doing that, they're just gonna. I mean, man management wise, you'd let Salah take those if it was within X amount, of percentage points of a possible goal resulting from the free kick. Just to, he's a striker. You want to stroke his ego a little bit. You want to keep him moving. Obviously, 2 years in a row with the Golden Boot, he's going to want to try and make it a hat trick. And I think just for appeasement purposes, you let Salah take those unless there's a significant difference in ability.
Come on,
you're probably right. I guess if
honest.
Shaq's not on the field, then it's probably going to be Salah. And if Shaq is on the field, Salah's probably off. So,
but let's be honest. Andy Robertson sucks at shooting. He's great at putting in a great ball, but how many times this season have we seen him coming in on that left and just kind of either kick it right at the keeper or kind of fluff it? He hasn't scored a goal for the team yet, and I would highly doubt it would come as a free kick, especially with the number of minutes he's seen so far.
Yeah,
Well,
just
you
to
could be right.
clarify,
This is an
it's-
instance of a guest telling the host that he's fucking wrong. So,
So Brian, here's where you're wrong, Brian.
Joe, I think I have to agree with you. It was a bit of a stretch. I
And
went
again,
off the outline here, and I think you're right.
You're right, man. I do. Sorry, I do that sometimes, and you always tell me
more
how
of a
I'm
difference
wrong.
between.
Go ahead, Gabe.
I was gonna say it's more, obviously difference between set pieces to where you know that there's going to be a shot directly on goal versus something that's going to be on the side of the 18-yard box where you're clearly going to try to cross it in. Like it's a different cast of characters there, and I don't think we have a left. I mean, again, Salah takes the ones that are going to be shot at goal, but he hasn't put one in. If I can't recall.
I think since last
set piece
season, he got one last season. I think it was a.
Did
beauty.
he?
I think he did. It was a beauty, if I recall.
This it was a long time ago, but this goal from Trent is only a second in a long time. So that's what I was getting at.
Call me out, listeners, if I'm wrong, but I don't recall one from last season. Not in a Liverpool jersey, but
Let's go to Google.
While you're doing that, I've got the. While you're doing that, I've got the double Owen angle here. So, this foul that Mane drew to win this free kick, look at how he steps in front of the defender at the last second to kind of claim that ball, and he just gets whacked in the leg and completely fouled. At first, I thought that was a bit soft, but upon replay, it was definitely the right thing to do. If you got a striker at home and teach him or her how to do that to loose balls at the top of the box, because it led to a great chance, and Trent buried it. So my other Owen angle here is he's probably upstairs right now playing Fortnite. So this celebration that Trent is doing after this goal, he runs in front of the Chelsea supporters. Guys, what was that all about? Anybody?
I know. I looked it up. So go ahead.
It's a FIFA reference. Yeah,
Joe's got it. All right, tell us about it, Joe.
No, Gabe right on it.
Yeah, no, I mean, what is it? Is it volt or voltage
Volta,
or something
Volta.
like that? Volta, but yeah, I think it's a reference to the street kind of like game mode that they're going to have out in FIFA or something like that. And Trent even said, or someone said that Trent's been playing with his friends for the FIFA 20 upcoming release. Obviously, be getting early access to it and all that kind of stuff. And so that's just a reference to one of the in-game celebrations that you see. So people, I saw a lot of people making links because Jadon Sancho is also has video of him in promotion for FIFA, also doing the exact same celebration. And so people were thinking that might be some kind of early sign that Trent knows, that the Liverpool brass knows that they have guaranteed transfer rights to Jadon Sancho come the end of next season. So a little that's where the fun of Twitter comes in.
I like it. It's not just a link
good old
to
commercialism.
I like it. It's not just a link to the new Volta's kind of street football that's been added to FIFA 20, but it's somehow a link to we're getting Sancho from Dortmund. So I love it. That's so typical Liverpool social media.
Oh,
I love it.
It was hilarious.
So,
by the way,
we spent a lot of time on that free kick, but the next important thing in this match is Chelsea score to apparently equalize. Dave Azpilicueta, and we call him Dave just because there's some videos out there about his name. Look him up. The Chelsea supporters sing, and it's hilarious. So Azpilicueta scores, but it's ruled out from VAR for offside. So generally speaking, what are your thoughts on this ruling? What do you think, Michael?
Well, to use Joe's phrase from earlier, as the rules are written, this was offside. Clear and simple, he was offside. Liverpool never regained possession of the ball. Liverpool could never. I think there's something about the defense being able to reset. But regardless, the guy was offside. He would have been ruled offside for making an attempt on the play. Have had linesmen still been doing their jobs before letting the entire thing run out. So, it was offside. It was clearly offside, full stop.
So this particular offside was, I believe, 11 or 12 seconds prior to the goal being scored. Gabe, does that change anything as far as VAR offsides go?
It's one of those situations to where they have to specifically write out that, if it's a certain period of time that needs to surpass, or if it's again something that actually happens in the field of play that would then dictate like a reset. Like we were, Michael and I are watching the NBC Gold Premier League review, and they have their ref guy that talks about this kind of reset. The defense has to be given an opportunity to kind of reset to then allow for almost like a passage of play to kind of start anew in that respect. Otherwise it's why, clearly there's not a offsides then that would be called from VAR 20 minutes after it happened for a goal that clearly was not then improved upon by that play. But, all jokes aside, it just, at that situation, I don't think – I can't remember if I've seen enough of the second point to where because I think it's a deflection off of Trent or someone where the ball plays onto Willian, later on in that passage play to where it actually does kind of create the goal. I think you could argue that he's offsides in that play as well, because I don't think that, again, a play off a defender, if it's not an actual opportunity for the defender themselves to actually control it or do something with it, if it's just deflected out, that can still lead to an offside. So if it's not the first one, then it's the second one that probably would have get him. So I think it just proves to be one of those situations to where VAR is going to be what's under the telescope. And so I think at any point in time to where pundits and the idea of football 24/7 kind of cycles are going to be able to bring VAR into question, they're going to do it because it's going to attract hits and whatnot. But I think this one's a pretty easy one, in the grand scheme of things. Obviously it's going to affect Chelsea, and they're going to be a little upset about it. So.
Well, and Gabe, and I would like to make this point very quickly, Bryan, but
sure.
My point is that the rules themselves have not been rewritten. It's just the how the refs respond to a violation of the rules, right? So he was offside at the beginning of the play. The linesmen have just been told to hold on to it until the play ends, which I'm very confused about. But regardless, he was offside at the beginning of the play, so it doesn't matter. So, and I do absolutely understand your point about, what is the maximum amount of time that can lapse between an offside call and a resulting goal. But I think in this instance, he was offside, full stop. So it should be irrelevant, and VAR shouldn't be affecting that decision.
Joe, I'm biting my tongue. I'm gonna hang out here to go last. Joe, what do you got for VAR and offsides in this particular ruling?
He was offsides. I mean, there's nothing to argue with it. Fat Frank needs to shut his fat mouth and sit down. He was offsides, and if they didn't get Mount for being offsides, they would have gotten it for Willian. They just didn't call that one because they didn't need to because Mount was offsides. Just shut up and sit down. Quit being a bitch and whining, Frank. Shut the fuck up.
What did you call Frank?
Fat Frank, man. They've been calling him that since the days of Steven Gerrard.
Joe, I've told you not to call me Frank anymore.
And frankly, don't call me Shirley.
All right. So here's the deal with this goal. As listeners know, and those of you that know me as well as you guys know, I'm a huge proponent of VAR. I think it fixes 99 problems for every one that it creates, and it's a good thing for the game. And those that oppose it because they can't celebrate a goal right away, I find that to be absurd because you can celebrate earning a penalty but then miss it, and it's the same kind of thing. I don't get people that aren't recognizing what VR is doing in a positive way. It's not foolproof, and it's not solving every problem that there is. But here's the problem I have, and if anybody's that loves VAR or supports it like I do is going to have a problem with it, offsides really shouldn't be one of them, because offsides is a very binary thing. You're either on or you're off. And it's very different than being subjective to the type of contact, the amount of force, or clear and obvious error, whatever. Here's the problem I have with this call, and you can lump in the offside call against Son from Tottenham from the day before. We have a human being drawing or clicking on someone's shoulder or foot or whatever and drawing a line on the screen and clicking on another shoulder or foot, or what the rule is a part of the body that you can score with can't be, past the second to last defender, right? When we have a person clicking on that, even if they're zoomed in like crazy, I think the rule needs to change from a VR perspective, that there has to be a clear and visible gap between the two lines. We're talking about, in some cases, the two lines overlapping 50%, and a tiny bit of the line is more offside than the other, for lack of a better term. When there's a human being drawing those lines, it strikes me as something that's a little strange. What if somebody clicks the line, a couple millimeters off the shoulder blade and onto the outside of the forearm, as opposed to the inside of the shoulder? We're getting into some weird areas here, and it's a part of VAR that I don't like, where the lines can overlap and someone can still be offside by a tiny, tiny amount. And I can't believe I'm saying this, because I think VR is a good thing, but I would have no problem with the lines, or the rule requiring a visible gap between the two lines, meaning they can't overlap at all, or else the person's onside. So as a big VAR guy, that might be crazy for me to say. I might have to turn in my VAR membership card, but I don't know. What do you guys think about that as a thought, or as am I off my rocker here?
They're going to come collect your VAR card along with your Blockbuster card, Bryan. But I don't think that this is in this situation. Like, I completely agree with what you're saying. There should be some space, but Mount's whole leg is offsides in this call. Williams 3 feet offsides. So, I mean, it's kind of a moot point for this discussion, wouldn't you say? But I mean, I know you're kind of changing the topic, so I'll digress from here. But Gabe wanted to say something. Sorry, Gabe.
Well, yeah, no, you're fine. No, I think just to add to that, to play a little counter to it, I would just say that, the lead into it was that offsides is, a binary aspect. It's, you're either offsides or you're not. And if you add in this kind of gray area, this layer, however that's defined, then it becomes, okay, well, it's just part of his leg, or is his full leg in, or, is an arm. And I think that becomes then way more, subjective at that point. And it's just, it's all about what you're used to, right? Because, we have that situation in American football, right? I mean, if it's a 4th and 1, and the ball then travels anywhere close to that first down marker, you better believe that play is being reviewed. Now, granted, that style of play in terms of American football, with the amount of commercial breaks, and people are already used to watching it, to where you're going to be expecting a break. You're going to be expecting a break, but the obviously the way that soccer's played out, and in that kind of just continuous play. Any of these interruptions are going to be magnified, because the sport's just not used to it. And so, I think, again, it comes back to whether or not the audience learns to tolerate it more. And certainly there's going to be a low tolerance in its inception, in the first year that we're seeing out. I guess, to bring that point back all around, I just get to where I'd much rather now, you can alter rules and write it in. But I don't want to insert more gray area into the game by saying now we're going to have, again, this kind of layer that's going to be added in that is a buffer zone on an offside call. I think it's just, if there's any body part that's past it, you call it, or in this case, it becomes in a video assistant referee that calls it at the end of it, and it's just, tough cookie at that point.
That's a fair point. Further discussion on our VAR podcast that we're going to be starting up here.
Brian, that's going to be riveting. That's going to be get your tickets. Oh man.
I think you need to remember two things, though. Is we lost the league by how many few millimeters that Mane's goal didn't quite go in last year?
Yes, I was going to bring that up. Liverpool supporters did not go berserk when we lost that by 11 millimeters.
11 millimeters or whatever it was. Yeah.
We didn't, because it was clear that the ball didn't fully cross the line. The whole of the ball didn't cross the whole of the line. And I believe that's what the law says, kind of word for word. So, we're talking about gray areas, but enough about VAR, I guess. So, we celebrate a great shot of the Jumbotron, or the big screen at Stamford Bridge, with VAR, no goal offsides, and the Liverpool supporters underneath it jumping up and down like maniacs, and I loved that. That was awesome. So, Liverpool go right down the pitch. They play a ball out wide to Genie. He makes Dave Azpilicueta look like a complete fool by just flipping the ball over him, and Azpilicueta pretty much commits a felony and knocks him over and fouls him, about even with the top of the box. Again, another free kick with a small little touch to kind of give a different angle. Bravo puts in a perfect ball, top of the sixth. Bobby Firmino with a free header heads it home, and Liverpool lead 2-0 after only half an hour. We're in control at that point, and we take that 2-0 lead to the second half, and it ends up being a little bit of a nervy second half. Conte scores a really good goal in the 71st minute. I just love this guy. It's hard to love a player on Chelsea. I like him more than Pulisic, and I'm an American and want the national team to do well, but Conte is just ridiculous. And this goal, he's one of the best at his position, not in the world right now. In my opinion, he's one of the best at his position, what he does, that I've ever seen. I've been watching this league and this game for quite a long time, but we'll say that for the Conte podcast. So this, and I'm never going to be on that. So
It's Jim's Le Blues podcast.
Little side gigs. Wait till you see my tax return next year. It's going to be ridiculous with all these side gigs. But, this particular goal from Conte, he kind of digs this ball out of his feet. I'm sorry, Gabe?
Your tax return.
Yes, no, I don't have to. Well, actually, I might have to with the business I'm in now, but anyway. Conte, I counted it. He takes 9 touches with his right foot and puts it in. I don't think we played this particularly well, and the finish was terrific, but we could have done a little bit better, I think, on the build-up to this. So, real quickly, Michael, any thoughts on this goal that gets it back to 2-1?
Yeah, I mean, what's really stood out to me is just how much Fabinho let Conte just kind of run away from him right outside the box. But it was a team effort on this one. I mean, it was a Keystone Cops clusterfuck. Yeah, the entirety of the back line just gave up for a little bit. And I mean, for twice in a week, a lot of our starting 11 looked very tired, and I'm really happy we're playing MK Dons midweek, and I really hope that we get a lot of the children's in the team. And
the children's. Yeah, you're right. Fabinho kind of laid off a little bit. If you go back and look at that goal, I believe it was Abraham still on the pitch at that point, Joe? I know he's your favorite guy on your fantasy team, but
no.
I think it was either him or that other dude that came on as a sub.
Abraham's still there.
He makes
Mishy hasn't been on yet.
Thank you, Gabe. So Abraham makes a run from Adrian's right to left, or from the attacking left back to the right, and that moves Virgil exactly. That kind of opens up that small little window for Conte. And this dude isn't known as like a world class finisher or anything like that, but that's all the window he needs. This ball is like stuck in his feet. It's like under him, and he still puts a ton on it and just sends it top corner. So that gets it back to 2-1, and that's a nervy last 19 minutes plus stoppage time. Joe, what are your thoughts on just kind of how that match finished? And then, Gabe, I'm coming to you.
I think Michael hit the nail on the head. It looked like they were tired. The whole team looked tired. The last 20, 25 minutes, half hour. Even the subs coming on didn't really bring much, which was kind of a disappointment in that regard. But yeah, it just kind of looks like we were tired on defense. I mean, Bravo has been getting a ton of credit from a lot of people for his play and in the very end of the match, making a run pretty much to end the match. But they did. It looked like they were just tired. Mane ends up picking up an injury in there too. It was nervy, but we still felt like we were going to win. At least I did. Yeah, we kind of got a little quiet there, Union Jack, though.
Yeah, we did. I thought we were going to hold on as well. Gabe, what were your thoughts about the last 20 minutes or so?
Yeah, I mean, I think well said here from the excellent co-panel on this. But it just I think it's one of these situations to where there's an alliance on this current current 11. And I think that only kind of fear the long term is this game 11. Players, and I think the areas with depth that we have that is strong is something like center back with Gomez. You don't really want to break up a pair they're doing so well with Van Dijk and Matip, just in the same way you didn't last season start off and when he wasn't playing well until the injury. So that's quite understandable. But I kind of thought, well, Ox played start last week. Certainly wasn't going to play and feature the Napoli match at all because coming off of that injury, you're certainly not going to want to ask too much from him. But I was kind of surprised he didn't even make a cameo appearance then at all in this match. It would have been interesting to play the neck, but obviously maybe Klopp was a bit nervous and again just doesn't really rate maybe his pressing or defensive ability in certain ways. And I think that's sort of my fear lies is you get the question of Shaqiri, some of these probably more, if you spin them down, attack-minded, these options, and Klopp really doesn't seem prone to playing them when we're in a tight situation. So that just means more wear and tear, on those two, namely Henderson, Fabinho, Ronaldo, and then Milner. We'll see if he can back provide some relief in that, but it really to Klopp and what he's feeling with that. So I hope, and this will be a segue in the week fixture, is that we do see an opportunity, maybe players that are in the periphery, to allowing for the squad to get rest and hopefully maybe to change tune on some people and where he maybe the importance of the reliance factor in them and relying them a little bit more,
there was definitely a couple of interesting subs there. So, Lana comes on, Milner comes on. Now, Milner comes on for Mane, which, Gabe, I know he's in your fantasy team. I heard you yelling at UJ. You wanted him to get 5 goals in the last 20 minutes, just like I did. That didn't happen. And, Mane comes off due to an injury. If you hadn't heard, listeners, Klopp said post-match it was some contact on the knee, to the bone, which is obviously, hurts like hell. And also one of my favorite injuries in the world, and it's very much an English thing, the dead leg. I guess it's some kind of a muscular bruise kind of thing. I don't know, the dead leg. I just love it. So Mane gets a whack on the knee and a dead leg. So continued playing after that, but Klopp takes him off. So I hear that he's going to be okay. Joe, you got any updates on Mane?
I looked it up, and the club's really tight-lipped recently on injuries. Like for instance, look at Alisson Becker. We had no idea. So just kind of look maybe for what we'll see from Klopp in the press conference. Probably won't say anything about it in the MK Dons press conference, and maybe in the Sheffield press conference on Friday. We might get an idea. But they said, and it was just pure speculation, but it looked like he might be kind of on a day-to-day kind of aspect for it.
All right, thank you, sir, very much. So we're 2-1. Liverpool get the win. They get the 3 points. We played a shit. This is even going into this game. I read that 5 points was the biggest lead that anyone's ever had in the Premier League era at this stage, and City hammered whoever the hell they played 8-0. It escapes me right now. Jen brought me a new gin and tonic, which is pretty terrific. So
Watford.
I'm going to make it to the end here. Yes, they hammer Watford 8-0, and our boys saw that, and they go to Chelsea, and I know the City players were thinking, great, if they draw, we're going to gain, or Chelsea can beat them. But instead, we win 2-1, and that's without Salah playing very well. That's with Salah coming off injured, and that's with not a incredible performance. We still win at Stamford Bridge 2-1. So let's wrap this up. Let's talk man of the match. What's your take, Michael? Man of the match. Give me a player. Give me a reason. maybe we lost Michael.
Sorry. No. Yeah,
no, Michael's still there. Michael was also refilling his drink, so I had my wife bring me mine. Michael didn't have anyone bring him his. He had to get his own. So, Michael, man of the match against Chelsea. Talk to me.
Oh, man.
This is where you picked the player you thought that was the best, Michael.
Yeah, no, I realize this. I don't think anybody had a particularly standout performance, if I'm being perfectly honest.
You can abstain. I'll allow that as a first time host. A man of the match abstain. Abstention, I guess. I'll allow that.
Okay.
Gabe, what do you got?
Yeah, no, I agree with Michael in that. I don't think that there wasn't a mind blowing performance from any particular player. Mine would go with Trent. I think just in terms of the goal for sure. He also had one of the balls in the second half. That was a pretty close assist there, and so I think there was a couple chance. He seemed quite lively. Of the defenders that had an error to their name, he probably was the one that didn't in that situation. So I'm gonna say Trent.
All right, Trent. So one abstention, one Trent. Joe, man of the match.
Well, first of all, N'Golo Kante was next level. I remember talking to you in the. I know we were talking about Liverpool players, but he was next level for the whole match. I mean, usually don't give it to a losing side, but I mean, I remember telling you in the middle of the match, I'm not impressed with this Chelsea team, but N'Golo Kante has been fabulous, and he was. I think he was the best player on the pitch. Seriously, in this match, club gave it to Joel Matip. He had a very strong game, but I'm gonna go with Trent. I mean that free kick. I mean he was playing great balls all day. He didn't look like he was worried about Mason Mount at all the whole match. And I'm trying to click over what I kind of hot taked it earlier. It was not really my take, but I watched Match of the Day and I thought it was Alan Shearer saying it, and proves that he is. Alan Shearer was just heaping praise on Trent. After that, he's like, this kid has everything. He has such a great future ahead of him, and he has every little thing that you want in that bag. We've got a player. Hopefully, he never wants to leave this club. Trent Alexander-Arnold's going to be a future captain of this club, and my man of the match.
Joe, I'm so pissed at you. I can't believe this.
Really? Why is that?
Yes, I'm all ready for the first time in my Indy Reds podcast career to give the man of the match to an opponent in N'Golo Kante. And the listeners out there, we don't prearrange this stuff. We do. We kind of do a lot of this on the fly. Yeah, we have some talking points, and we watch matches together an awful lot. Not always, but an awful lot at Union Jack Pub and Broad Ripple. But Kante is ridiculous. This dude is everywhere. This dude scored a terrific goal. This guy is winning balls in his own defensive third. He's winning balls by the corner flag. He's distributing. He's freaking everywhere. This is one of the 3 or 4 guys on the planet that would improve this Liverpool team. Maybe not even 3. Yeah. This dude is ridiculous. I've never given man of the match to an opponent, but Kante was better than anyone we had. And I agree that Matip had a good match, and whoever that freaking teenage intern at ESPN that wrote their match ratings and gave Matip a 5 is a absolute fucking idiot. Look that up. It's on Twitter. And that poor person.
Fabinho too. I think they give Fabinho a 5 as well.
Yeah, you're right. And you guys are right. We didn't have anyone that stand out, but we didn't have anybody that was a 5 either. Kante was
certainly not Matip nor Fabinho.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
But no, Gabe emphatically made the same point that you did just now, Bryan. That in the combined 11s that often incorrect Premier League commentators put up prior to matches, N'Golo Kante is one of the few players and perhaps the only position on the pitch that there are readily available options that would improve this Liverpool side.
Yep, I can't agree more. And Joe may never invite me on ever again, but I'm giving a man the match to an opponent. That's N'Golo Kante.
Joe wanted
this dude's terrific, and this might be partially fueled by this gin and tonic next to me. It might also be partially fueled by me dropping him from my fantasy team and him scoring a goal and kind of. I didn't think he was going to play. I mean, that's why I dropped him, but. Terrific player.
Maybe
played well.
Maybe Frank is studying in the dark arts of incorrect injury reports.
That could be. Big Bone Frank.
Watch out, fantasy owners. Don't trust.
Pulling a Belichick.
Yes, Big Bone Frank. Kind of altering the injury reports. So well done, but you still lost 2-1, and Liverpool get all 3 points. So that wraps up the match against Chelsea. We're still top of the league. Perfect after all these matches. 5-point lead over Manchester City, despite them scoring 800 goals every freaking match. Doesn't matter. We're still 5 points ahead, and I love it. So well done. So let's wrap this up here. What's next for Liverpool is League Cup match on Wednesday, the 25th of September against MK Dons. After that is Sheffield United on Saturday, early kickoff. So get to Union Jack Pub and Brew for Broad Ripple or wherever it is that you watch your Liverpool matches. Early start on Saturday morning, the early kickoff there. So, the lineup expectations for Sheffield, I'm sure we're going to pick a very similar 11 to what we just saw against Chelsea if everyone is fit. We'll see about Mane. I heard today on Redmen TV they released a pod late Monday afternoon talking about Mane. He had to go through 15 minutes of it before they got to the Mane stuff, and that's cool because we do the same thing. He's going to be okay, I believe, by Saturday. He certainly won't be anywhere near the pitch Wednesday against MK Dons. But our lineup against them in this Carabao Cup on Wednesday is interesting. Real quickly, any particular changes you like to see, or just kind of generally speaking, what do you want to have happen on the pitch Wednesday against MK Dons? Gabe, what do you got for us?
Brewster. I think it's a perfect moment.
There's only one of them, Gabe. I don't know who was.
you got Big D, with the injury setback there. Whoa.
Explicit rating here. Be careful.
give Firmino a little bit of a rest. And certainly there was so much hype going, from the offseason into the season. And again, you're going to see that Klopp is not going to mess with that front three when the match matters, and you can probably take note in how Liverpool's kind of talked about, maybe directly or indirectly, in regards to these cups, that they're going to probably try some things. And so I think it's a perfect opportunity for Brewster to come in, really get some competitive action, and see what he can do. Shaqiri would just be my other just quick little drop in there. I think depending on what's been going on with training and practices, you think he's earned some time, and this is an opportunity to get him some minutes. So those are my main two that I'd like to see on Wednesday.
Brewster and Shaqiri, I think we're all in agreement there. I think both those guys will start. Michael, any other thoughts on the starting lineup Wednesday against MK Dons?
Yeah, I want to see wholesale changes. I think that we have enough players that need rest that if we're going to change a third or a half or 2/3 of the team, we might as well just change the whole damn thing. I want to see essentially, MK Dons is League One. Essentially, if we can field a championship side team, without starting any of our primary starting 11, 12, 13, 14 players, I'm all about it. Absolutely. Get some minutes in the legs. If we absolutely shit the bed and lose, 3-4-1, then nobody's going to be able to say, oh, Liverpool looked weak this season because, we played an entirely separate team. I think it serves us no purpose to replace 5, 6, 7, 8 of the starting 11.
Joe, is 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 enough, or do you want to make more changes?
I think I have almost the whole side changed out. So I have Adrian starting in the back. I'm not. That's my least confident selection on this. but I think Klopp's going to want some experience in the team. So my back line, I have Larouci on the left, Lovren and Gomez.
God damn
center.
it, Joe!
And
Larouci. All right.
I was going to say Klein, but I remembered then that he was injured. So I think Hover's going to get the start there. Klopp played Lallana a lot and liked him in that 6 in preseason, so I think we're going to see Lallana in a 6, and Milner and Ox in that midfield, and that's going to give that experience, along with Shaq and Brewster up top. And I have Curtis Jones or Harvey. That was a good shout from Bobak, rounding out the top 3. So I think either Curtis Jones or Harvey are going to get the start.
Get a good run, get some experience. Larouci, you scooped me again. So, up in South Bend this summer, I was fortunate enough to meet all the players in Klopp and everything. And I actually talked to Larouci for a second and getting a picture taken with a World Cup finalist, and he about hugged me. But Larouci, this dude comes around. I knew his name and pronounced it correctly, so I think that might have been, a point in my favor. But
that's because James Pierce told you, Bryan.
Well, actually, I hadn't talked to James Pierce yet. That was in the mix zone afterwards. I talked to him very briefly, right. and Melissa Reddy distracted all 3 of us at that point, and we didn't really talk to James. But Larouci, I knew his name. This dude is didn't have a great preseason. He kind of had a little stretch there. I think it was against Sevilla at Fenway. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but he had 15, 20 minutes where he wasn't. Yeah, but this dude is. We saw him in training. He's fast. He's bigger than he looks. He's just. I want to see him play. I think he really has a future. I think he's going to start at left back. I don't want Ox anywhere near this game, but I do want Harvey Elliott to start. He's a left-footed player to start on the right, and you're right, Joe. Good shot by Bobak. So lots of changes coming up against MK Dons Wednesday, and then back to the league on Saturday. So what's that?
Oh, I said we hope. I don't expect. I think those are all lineups that we'd like to see, or at least what Joe said. I don't expect Klopp to do.
I'm expecting it.
He doesn't. I don't think he's not known for that though. He's still.
He does.
Like you said, he puts experience in there. Not full 11. Not full 11 changes.
He did last year for the Carabao Cup.
Yeah, but I think that was in a situation to where though there was some injuries at that point as well that took some options completely off the table.
There is no way that Virgil van Dijk sees the pitch.
Oh no, I agree with that. I agree with that. Like I said, I hope I truly hope that it is a completely changed 11. Gomez will certainly play. I like to see Keita was the only other person that has mentioned for like cameo. He certainly won't start, but if he can get 15 minutes in, that would be a nice sight if it's not rushing him back too quick.
All right, that'll work. So after that, we got Sheffield on Saturday.
Hey, you know what, Bryan?
Another 3 point. Yeah, go ahead.
Sheffield is red, much like our city. Sheffield is red.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. So, some Sheffield supporters were singing a song about a city being red. Joe, I'm a little confused. What's the context of this song?
So Sheffield was beating Everton. Was it at Goodison? Or was
it was
at Sheffield? Okay, and the Sheffield supporters were singing. Sheffield is red, just like your city, Sheffield is red.
There's a great YouTube video of the Sheffield supporters singing this.
Wait,
look
Bryan,
it up. I love it.
Was this Sheffield or was this Lincoln?
No, it's Sheffield United.
Sheffield United just beat Everton 2-0 on Saturday.
Oh, okay. So the earlier one in the season. The earlier one in the season was Lincoln.
Everybody screams at Everton supporters, so I understand your confusion, Michael. Because
I think
no. There was a video that just came out early in the season. It was an it wouldn't have been FA Cup.
The League Cup, whatever.
The League Cup. The League Cup match that Everton lost to Lincoln City. This video is much better, Bryan.
I don't know, Michael. I know Owen plays Burbuff tomorrow and Park Tudor on Thursday, and I'll be screaming Everton songs. Sitting there,
How shit are you? You're losing to us. You're losing to us. You're losing to us. How shit are you? You're losing to us.
I'll have to be careful because Owen's team does have blue home uniforms. So I sometimes I sleep in the yard in shame, but in my red Liverpool jersey. But it is what it is. So. All right, so that wraps up our what's next for Liverpool. A couple matches coming up. Hey, one thing I want to mention: there's a fixture change. If you haven't heard, the Liverpool match against City, one of the biggest matches of the year, November 10th. It's been moved to Sunday, November 10th. So if you haven't heard that, you can thank Joe and the pod team here for letting you know. We play City on November 10th, Sunday. Mark your calendars. Get a reminder tattoo. Whatever you have to do. Start planning your I'm stick strategy with your boss if you have to work weekends occasionally or if you have to grade papers like Jim does or whatever you do. You don't want to miss this one wherever you watch Liverpool matches at, whether it's a Union Jack pub in beautiful Broad Ripple or wherever it is on this great planet that you watch. Big match coming up has been moved to the 10th of November. So let's wrap this up. Thank you for hanging in with us for an awful long time. We had a great group tonight and a lot to talk about and one of the biggest pods we've ever had. So thank you very much. It's time to talk plugs and non-plugs. Joe, this is your baby. I'm going to you first. What do you got for us?
All right. So first of all, I was traveling for work last week, and I'm usually the one that gets the kids on and off the bus. Big plug out to my wife. She was a champ making sure that they got to soccer practice, got on and off the bus, but also non-plugs to Metropolitan School District of Washington Township, their transportation department, because the hell they ended up putting my wife through. Oh shit, dude! They were an hour late drop off on Thursday. Luckily, we didn't have soccer practice that night. And
better than an hour late pickup.
Oh, they've done that before too. Sub drivers all over the place. It's just been a disaster. We have a state senator that lives in our neighborhood, and my wife was sitting under a tree just waiting on the bus, and she stopped and talked to her for a minute, and she happens to be talking to the superintendent this week, having dinner with the superintendent, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, my non-plug to Metropolitan School District of Washington Township's Transportation Department. And also I have another non-plug, and it goes to Michael Nead. He knows what he did.
All right, so Michael, let's go to you. You can either address that or completely ignore it and abstain like you did on Man of the Match. Plugs and non-plugs.
Yeah, I'm gonna abstain because Joe is certainly not my man of this podcast. My plug, well, actually, and this is going to be a bit mushy, so you're just gonna have to bear with me for just one moment.
Oh boy, here we go.
Oh yeah, here we go, baby. So my plug this week is the other guest host on this podcast, Gabe Rooney. Some of you may know that he is my new roommate. He's been absolutely wonderful. And, so this is me choking on his dong on the podcast.
I was worried where that was going for a bit there. Like I was waiting for it to go negative at any point in time. Like stop shrieking through the house, at 2 a.m. in the morning or something of that nature. But yeah. I will quickly counter that Michael's been an excellent host and he has a wonderful house. So it's been a fun. What has it been 3 weeks already? They've flown by. So
yeah,
there you go. There's all the sentimental. Yeah. So
we see. There you go, Joe. I host for the first time. You get a double plug.
Yep.
There's a joke there. I'm just going to leave it.
Michael, go ahead.
2 plugs. No. I had a wonderful non-plug fun up earlier, and I've just completely forgotten it. This was earlier this afternoon, and I keep meaning to write it down and never did. So my only non-plug is my inability to attend matches regularly at UJ's so far this season. It's been very detrimental to my life, and it seems like it's going to continue for a little bit. So my non-plug right now is me because I have nothing better to argue about with somebody else. So, and if I can't think of something funny, I'm going to think of something argumentative. So yeah, no.
There's nothing wrong with missing a match from time to time. I had to do that for an awful long time. as you know, Michael, and I'm beyond that now. So don't worry about it, bud. You're good. So I've got something that'll pick you up here in a second. But first, we're going to Gabe. Plugs, non-plugs, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just, I don't really think I have any non-plug and beyond again the hosting of the house here. I would say another new year of FIFA. That should be fun. I think even for those people who don't buy it year in, year out, like the stupid people like myself, even though the content rarely changes. Hey, Liverpool's actually in it this year. I mean, like fully, licensed and in good favor. So some of our players got better ratings, and we've got good old Verge on the front cover. That's great, and I appreciate that. And EA, I'll take that paycheck for promoting your shitty game. Thank you.
Most of us just wait till about Christmas when it goes on sale for $20.
It's the bargain shopping of the year.
Yep.
Well, I'll be buying it as soon as it's available, but I'm older than all you guys, so I'm not going to buy it online and download it to a machine. I'm going to go to some store and buy it in a fucking disc that I can hold in my hand. So
that's smart. But it would be fun to play. I think someone was talking about it in LC Indy, with some matches against each other. So that should be fun. I think that could be a cool addition to the year.
LFC Indy, Facebook page is part of the official Liverpool Supporters Club in Indianapolis, which we all love, and a couple of us serve on the board, and even there's information on there whether you're a PlayStation player or that X-rated box or whatever that other thing is called. There's leagues out there you can play in. There's leagues out here you can play in. So check that out.
You young whippersnappers enjoy your digital games. I'm still planning a party just so that I can invite Rustin over and bring a Subuteo or however the hell you say it.
It's called Subuteo.
Subutia, which sounds even more perverted.
And a board game night. It's clearly can do a board game night. Like a real old fashioned. So
it's a Belgian Dutch Danish word, and Jim knows the font that it's in. So,
sorry, dude.
Gabe, we've got Loop and Louie, we've got Jenga. We can do board games. That's not a problem.
So I will say the reason I'm waiting for the FIFA disc is, our oldest is back in the house, so we've got a couple PlayStation 4s here, which is I'm a little bit embarrassed to admit, but we're going to buy the disc so we can load it on both machines. So that's my reasoning. But
that's fair.
Yeah, absolutely, it is.
You're a practical man.
Yeah, I'm many things, and practical when it comes to FIFA is one of them. So we'll leave the rest up for another time. So, hey, a couple of, I had a plug, and I'm completely going to toss it off to the side, and I'm changing my plug on the fly. And this is, Michael, just listen up here. So my plug is the group at Union Jack Pub in beautiful Broad Ripple, a great place to watch a game. And we talk about the servers, and we talk about the staff, and we talk about Jay and Chelsea, the owners, all the time. But today I want to talk about the Liverpool supporters that watch with us at Union Jack every week in Indianapolis. Michael, we noticed that you weren't there today, or this past Sunday, and it was crowded, and the upper deck was full. We had some new people there. We had some young kids there. Not just Joe's kids, but we had some other kids too. So we're family friendly. It's great. It's crowded. Lower deck is full. And one of our regulars walks up and he needs a place to sit. And guess where he went to go sit? And guess what it was called? We knew that you were busy, and they said, take the Michael Nead seat. And they point to the ledge underneath the window. So you might not have been there because you had some other stuff going on. You might have missed this one game. But, dude, that seat is called the Michael Nead seat. So plug to all the Indy Reds who know that as the Michael Nead seat and point it out that, hey, dude's not here today, so you can have the Michael Nead seat. So plug to all those folks who recognize all those matches you watch there and offering your seat and calling it what it really is to another person that needed it. So that's my plug today. My non-plug is to fucking Martin Tyler, who I used to love 15, 20 years ago. This dude is a legend in this league as far as, really broadcasting worldwide.
You snapped me out of my sappy mood pretty fucking quickly.
Oh my gosh, this idiot! It's been well known for about 5 or 10 years that he isn't a Liverpool lover, and he's got a Manchester United thong that he wears all the time, or whatever it is that he does. So, Trent, look this up. It's hard to find because we get the feed here in America with Arlo White and all these other guys, and we don't get Martin Tyler necessarily because he does Sky Sports, and we don't get that feed here in America. But if you can find it on Twitter, it's really hard to find on YouTube. It's been being taken down here in the States, but you can find it on Twitter. This dude, Martin Tyler's goal announcement call of Trent's ridiculous free kick is absurd. He sends in this screamer. It's a beautifully taken free kick. Other than the one from Villa that I'm not going to watch just so I can rub it into the United supporters. Martin Tyler, this goes in, he's like, oh, wonderful. I mean, and that's kind of all he says. It's like he's stirring paint or something. He's like, it was ridiculous. It was so clearly anti-Liverpool. And you go back and watch some of his other matches where United execute a successful throw in the defensive third, and he just basically takes his pants off to announce it. I'm tired of it. Martin Tyler, non-plug. Trent's free kick was ridiculous. Your goal call was awful. And I know you download us every week. Fuck off, Martin Tyler. All right. I think that's it, gentlemen. And listeners, thanks for hanging in there. We had a big pod tonight with 4 people. Joe, thanks for letting me host, and Michael and Gabe, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I had a great time. And,
thanks for having us.
Yeah, anytime, man, anytime. So hopefully we'll see you Saturday in Sheffield. If not, Michael Nead's seat on the ledge is available if you need it. So we'll see. But thanks again for hanging in there for a really long pod. We had a lot to talk about, and I had a great time. Joe, thank you very much for letting me host. If you want to reach out to us, you can do so on Facebook and in email and all kinds of different places, and Twitter, etc. You'll see those details in the podcast notes. So thanks very much for downloading us, and listening tonight. This is Bryan signing off for the very first time for the Indy Reds Podcast. Thanks for listening. You'll never walk alone.